Welcome back, environmental epidemiology class. In this video, we're going to actually go over that case series that we have already kind of started talking about, but we're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail as we look at the actual article. So you had the title there, Clinical Findings in a Group of Patients Infected with the 2019 Novel Coronavirus Outside of Wuhan, China. And this was a retrospective case series, meaning they went back in time and they looked at who applied here to this particular study. So let's go ahead and pull up that actual article. So I'm going to stop it, and you've got a copy of it. So now you should have a copy of the article here before you, and you can see that this article was published on a fast track, meaning they hurried it through the peer review process and got it out there as quick as they could because they felt that the information that was included would be vital to potentially public health, not just in China, but all around the world. So let's look at this particular study in a little bit more depth. So they had 62 patients that we know from our previous video had already met the case criteria. In this sense, they actually had identified them between January 10th and January 26th with actually having the clinical signs or symptoms that then subjected or warranted them needing to get tested. And then these people also tested positive for the virus, so they were deemed infected with the virus. There were 62 of them. And the most common symptoms, according to the article abstract, in the patients was they had fever, so that was a lot, 77% of them. Cough, 81% of them. They had phlegm, so 56% of them. Headache, 34% of them. So not everybody has a headache with this. And also, not everybody has fever. There's still 23% of the people that didn't have fever. 20% or so didn't have a cough. Some, very few, only 8% had diarrhea. So shortness of breath, only 2 people had shortness of breath at the time of admission. And then how long were they there? The median time from what they think was the exposure to illness, it took about 4 days. And people might have went around feeling okay for a couple days, and day 3 they start feeling bad, day 4 they show up at the hospital. And from the onset of symptoms, it took them about 2 days from the time they started feeling bad till they ended up in the hospital. So that's interesting information. But we're going to go ahead and look down here at the actual characteristics of these patients that were hospitalized at this particular hospital. So the median age was 41 years. The most numerous group of people among all the patients that were in this hospital with this condition, 53% of them were between 41 and 65. Only 2 of the 62 were older. 25 of the 62, or 40% of the people that were hospitalized, were 19 to 40 years of age. So that is not something that you hear a lot on the reports. A lot of people, we know about the people who are dying from it, but in terms of who's being hospitalized, you can see a lot of younger folks have the potential to also be hospitalized. So that's interesting. We also see how long time since symptom onset. So greater than 10 days, so there's some time that people are dealing with this stuff. All right, did they have a fever? You can see a lot of people, we think of 37 degrees Celsius, 37.3 is kind of normal. So a lot of them did have an elevated temperature, some of them very high temperature. Then we already kind of covered those other symptoms. There's some other information that's provided. Usually when you start getting below the 4 times 10 to the 9th per liter on white blood cells, 31% of them had a decreased white blood cell count. And then lymphocytes, 42% of them had low lymphocytes. So that's something, meaning their immune system was weakened during their bout with this. And then one of the more stronger things is 98% of them had pneumonia. So that's pretty much what hospitalized them. And then they also give the radiology community kind of some images that they would know how to read best that helps them understand what this might look like in a person. So this is a image of a 32-year-old man's chest or whatever here. So you can see 32-year-old man and look at these images, and a radiologist can see more clearly that there's something obviously going on that's wrong here. So that's just a little bit about what goes into these types of things, and you can see also the treatments and the outcomes of the different patients. You can see the different drugs and things that they threw at them. A lot of people got put on antibiotics because they were probably worried about secondary infections that could have been helping drive that pneumonia. So when somebody's lungs do get attacked by a virus, we also have the potential for other types of infections to move in that might be bacteriological in nature. So that's just a little bit about an actual case series that was done. There are many more case series to come, but based off of those types of things give us the opportunity to do some other types of thinking in terms of developing cross-sectional studies and case control studies for further understanding how to control this pandemic, or how to at least maybe treat aspects of this pandemic. So all these types of things are very helpful, and hopefully it's been informative. So that's all I've got on the case series and case reports. We'll be moving into cross-sectional studies and the value of probably immunological tests or serological tests here in the near future. Thank you.